Hey, I'm Leisha Grabinski. This is Saskatchewan. We're witnessing a dramatic shift in our country's approach to immigration. And while many say it's necessary that Canada rein in the number of immigrants we accept each year, these changes affect people who are already here. Your neighbors, your colleagues, people who cook your food at your favorite restaurant. A number of Saskatchewan business owners say some of their employees could soon be forced to leave the country. The CBC's Aishwarya Dutta is on the podcast today to help us understand the ripple effect of shrinking immigration in Saskatchewan. Hi, Aishwarya.
Hey, Leisha.
So we know there have been cuts to immigration, but how has that affected people here in our province?
A lot of people come here on some kind of temporary permit, either student or work, and with the goal to eventually become permanent residents. So now we have people who've lived here for years with good jobs. They've bought a house, their kids go to school, they're paying taxes, contributing to the economy, but now they risk deportation because their temporary permits are expiring.
And that's the case at this restaurant in Lloydminster. Tell us a bit about this restaurant.
The restaurant is called the Indian Kitchen in Lloydminster. When you walk in, Leisha, you can smell the cardamom, the cloves, the saffron. Just thinking about it is making me hungry. And the place, it's loud with Bollywood music. They get a huge lunch rush. And I saw that firsthand. The busyness of the kitchen can be heard throughout the restaurant. You can really feel and hear the warmth of the place. It's run by Ravinder Kaur. She opened it almost 6 years ago, and it's become part of the community. I went there, and Ravinder wanted to introduce me to some of the regulars, like Heather Perryman, who says she can tell when there's like a different chef or they changed the recipe.
How are you coming today?
I'm great. How are you?
Hey, good. Thank you. Thank you for coming again.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
I enjoy this food so much.
I know. That's why you come every
I
week.
do.
Every week? Twice or once?
Twice or 3 times sometimes.
I know.
Yes. The service is great, and I love the food.
I think Ravinder should be paying Heather. That's some pretty good marketing there.
Right? Too good.
But you spoke to Ravinder more about the restaurant, right?
I did. And you know what, Leisha? She's got a similar story like mine, actually. We both came to Canada as international students and worked our way up. I actually remember when I was walking around downtown Toronto 5 years ago with like 100 printed resumes and just going door to door, restaurant to restaurant, looking for a job, desperately asking them to hire me. I eventually did get my first journalism job as an editorial assistant. And Ravinder Kaur also came to Canada from India as an international student over a decade ago. She worked her way up through gas station shifts, working as a server, then restaurant manager, to eventually opening one of her own restaurants. And now she's helped launch the Indian Kitchen at 11 locations across small towns in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC. But before that, one of the restaurants that she worked at helped her get permanent residency back when it was much easier than it is now. Her dream was to have a franchise, but of those 11, only about 3 are still open due to staffing issues and labor shortages, she says. And right now, she's terrified because she may lose another restaurant and be forced to give up on her dream entirely. All because of her 2 skilled chefs who are nearing the end of their work permit, meaning they'll have to leave the country.
I feel like if I give up on them now, I cannot sleep properly. I will have those thoughts. How can I let that happen,
So how did the restaurant and these chefs end up in this situation? Like, what's changed?
A lot's changed, Leisha, and especially for these 2 chefs, Arvind Kantura and Bhupendra Rawat. They've been in Canada for more than 7 years. They've been working hard. They've built family and community, and they're both trying to get their permanent residency, which was always the goal. Remember how you said so many people come here as on temporary permits with the goal of becoming permanent? Well, Arvind's permit expired in October, and he's lived here for more than 7 years. He's been waiting for over a year to hear about his paperwork for permanent residency. And if he doesn't hear back, or if he doesn't get a work permit extension, he will be forced to leave the country next month. He was busy working in the kitchen when I talked to him the other day. He's wearing a white chef's coat with the restaurant logo on his right chest, and he has a warm smile that is framed by a floppy mustache. And And even though he was generous and kind when we spoke, I could really feel the tension and the stress that he has been experiencing. Arvind arrived in 2018. The rest of his family came in 2020.
This job means is my career and my life, my family, everything is depend to this job for me, and even my parents also depend for me.
Do you send money back home?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids, one girls 10-year-olds and one boys is 4-year-olds is living with me, and boy also born here, but girls is born in India.
What is the hardest part, or how do you feel, waiting, not knowing?
This time is I'm feeling is very bad is because to have to pressure. But how can I survive my family, and I have to work also, and sometimes it's going to depression also.
Yeah, he told me he's not sleeping well, and he's afraid he'll have to pack up his family and leave in January.
Yeah, it sounds extremely difficult. I can hear just how hard this is for him.
It certainly is. And it was a difficult interview. By the end of it, he was out of words to express his feelings and the fear that he has for the future, especially of his children, the whole reason why he came to Canada in the first place, to give them a better life. And now it's all up in the air. The second chef, Bhupendra Rawat, has 3 children, Ridhima, who's 12, Tanvi, 7, and Ava, a toddler. Those kids have been living in Canada for most of their lives. We were talking in their living room, all 5 family members sitting on a plush cream couch, the kids with toys jammed on either side of them and between their legs. 12-year-old Ridhima shared with me how she's feeling about things.
What are your dreams and ambitions and goals, if any? You're still very young, but...
Yeah. I was thinking to be a lawyer. Yeah, so I wanted to do studies from here. Yeah. Because I don't even know, how, the university, college, or schools work there.
Yeah. How do you feel if that you might have to go back? How does that make you feel?
Really bad, because I don't know how to read or write in Hindi. Yeah.
Also, Bhupendra, the father of the family, has been battling bone marrow cancer. He says if he doesn't get a work permit extension or if his permanent residency doesn't come through, it not only puts his livelihood at risk, but disrupts his cancer treatment and his children's schooling.
So just I'm thinking about their future. My children's future, and sometimes sometimes even about me, even my medicals. Yeah.
Even about you, yes. Your diagnosis.
Yeah, diagnosis. Yeah.
So he's not well, and his work permit expires in January, so he's also running out of time, Leisha.
A very stressful situation. And then in the meantime, how is the owner of the restaurant dealing with all of this?
Well, it's personal for her, not just because her business is at stake, but because the chefs have become family and she feels responsible for them. She says there's a lot of assumptions about why someone might hire temporary foreign workers. It's a lot of work to go through the labor market impact assessment, which is a document that employers need to justify why they need foreign workers in their business, or to go through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program process. And Ravinder broke down the details and hurdles for me.
Everybody is at stake, as you said. We are contributing to the economy. It's not we are not, And nowadays, whenever I go to Facebook, all I see is this hate. The Tim Hortons is only hiring temporary foreign workers. Because they're getting grants. No business is getting grants because they're hiring temporary foreign workers.
You need them.
We need them.
She got pretty emotional when she told me that she had thyroid cancer last year, went through surgery while running the restaurant, and even then, she says she refused to quit. And she says after all that, she can't stop now. And if she can't help the people who helped build and run this restaurant, then what was the point of all the struggle?
Wow, it's quite the story. And I know that this is just one story about one restaurant. But you can see how these immigration cuts ripple throughout that whole restaurant and then through the whole community. And it's just affecting so many people. And then we know that there are other stories, other businesses who are dealing with this. So beyond this restaurant, how widespread is this issue?
I'm hearing that this is happening in communities across Canada, Alicia, particularly in rural areas. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses says labor shortages are already severe, and losing skilled immigrant workers could push many of those businesses that rely on foreign workers to close. Christina Santini is the CFIB's Director of National Affairs.
1 in 5 of them may very well close as a result of this because they'll be losing key workers that help them employ other Canadians. We often hear individuals saying, oh, just hire Canadians, bring in Canadians. But what we're hearing from our members is they're not seeing the applicants. You know, their posters are available nationally.
She says the sectors most affected are the hospitality sector, manufacturing, and construction, all areas that are important for Saskatchewan. And if those industries suffer, others will too. Without restaurants, you don't have delivery drivers. Everyone down the line feels it. It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah, I can understand that. I want to just zoom out for a moment, though, to talk about how we got here, because many experts have said that our immigration numbers ballooned, like especially during COVID-19. Canada had expanded the temporary foreign worker program to fill vacancies, but then many said that those numbers weren't sustainable and that they were no longer necessary. And a lot of people point to our high youth unemployment as a reason to not be recruiting workers from other countries right now. And then the other thing that people talk about is just how schools and our healthcare system have struggled to keep up with population growth. So I've heard those arguments. And even the Liberal government has said it was time to scale back, right? So, what have you learned about the impact of these political decisions?
That's right, Leisha. And to learn more, I spoke to an immigration lawyer in Saskatoon, Chris Veman. He says business picks up for him when there are these policy changes because people pick up the phone and say, help, what does this mean for me? What are my options?
We're starting to see it now. We will see it more as time goes on. People are going to start running out of either study permit status, work permit status. They are not going to be finding a pathway to PR in a fast enough way, and they're going to be stuck. They're either going to have to leave or go underground or get deported or something. There's a big number of people that are going to be in that situation. And so people are running out of options to stay here legally. So some are leaving, going home or to another country, or some are others are making refugee claims, just looking for any kind of way to stay here.
Did he just say that people are making refugee claims? Can you explain that?
You heard that right. Refugee claims in Saskatchewan have jumped by 98%. The number of people with valid asylum claims increased from 683 on April 1st last year to 1,344 a year later, according to data from Statistics Canada. And experts say it might be because sometimes that's the only option left for people who've invested their whole lives to try and stay here. And so, as an example, after I spoke to Chris Veman, the lawyer, he had an appointment with someone considering claiming refugee status.
Definitely spoken to people about, and I know that I have a consult coming up with someone that's looking at a refugee claim. No option to continue studying. This is a person that's been a student, so they don't have work experience. But it's either, that's kind of like the only option now for her.
Are they legitimately asking, most of them, or are they?
Well, I don't know the whole story on that one yet, but not all. I think that there's a recognition as well. This is where fast processing of refugee cases is important, because right now, if you made a refugee case today, you would probably not get a hearing for about a year and a half. So you'd be here with a work permit for a year and a half, and then hope that you succeed in your refugee case. But for many people, that year and a half is pretty significant. So
hey, that'll buy you a year and a half of time
of working.
That's huge.
Yeah. Of working in Canada, and maybe you're sending money back to your family to keep them alive. So, the economics of that work out pretty well for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So applying for asylum takes time. That could mean a year of working and income, and people see that as a benefit.
Yes, that's one way to look at it, Leisha. But also, once you start that process, you can choose other pathways. You can't have multiple applications while you're doing a refugee claim. Keep in mind, seeking asylum is just one route some people are taking, but there are others with maybe more options. And they will choose another country to move to, and some argue that we're losing talent.
I've spoke with somebody recently who's working in Canada, no immediate, pressure in terms of work permit or anything like that, but he's just not sure that it's worth committing to staying in Canada for him. He's got other options, this person, and not getting PR or not having a defined path to PR is putting him off, and he may just move. And there's other people where that's really, that's kind of the reality too, but they can't leave realistically.
Right. So it totally depends on a person's situation. If you're solo, you might say, I'm out of here and heading to another country, more willing to take immigrants, although the number of countries like that are dwindling because it seems like a lot of places are tightening their immigration numbers. But again, like those chefs that you've introduced us to, Aishwarya, they don't have a lot of options. You got one battling illness. It's not so easy to just leave. What do the numbers look like? Like how many people want to stay here permanently versus how many spots we may have?
And there's a lot of people like those who can't just leave. Like me, I couldn't have just left if I was in this situation. And it's a great question. How many spots do we have now as opposed to the number of people? And Chris Veman says there's more than 1 million people in Canada wanting permanent status. But the government's announced only 380,000 permanent residency spots for next year.
Wow, that context is pretty striking. How has our provincial government responded to all of this? Like, I know Premier Scott Moe has always emphasized the importance of economic immigration.
Correct. Premier Scott Moe has maintained that we need skilled workers and that historically the province has relied on those skills coming from other countries. We also know that Canadian attitude towards immigration is changing. For years, it was a Canadian virtue that we valued immigration. Political parties of all stripes didn't question that. In fact, they agreed on it.
They all agreed, like the one thing they agreed on, all of them.
I know. But that's shifted. And according to polling that CBC's reported on, and experts say that's because of the seismic growth we saw under the Trudeau Liberals. Fast forward to now, at a Liberal caucus retreat in Edmonton in September, Prime Minister Mark Carney said, it's clear that we must improve our overall immigration policies. But reducing numbers in Ontario versus Saskatchewan, the outcome is different. And many business leaders here say we need skilled workers and we need immigration. Here's immigration lawyer Chris Veman again.
Debates kind of come and go. I think the big problem here was a big upswing without the longevity to sustain that.
So how do we strike the right balance in Saskatchewan? We need skilled labor, but I'm guessing there's a sweet spot. We want the right number of people settling each year without it being too high or too low. And I'm sure everyone has an opinion on what the right number is.
Totally. That's the current debate, Leisha. And I don't know if we've collectively settled on a number.
The other thing I think about is how, there are limits on immigration everywhere. I had to apply for a visa to stay in France for more than 90 days, and I would have been forced to leave if I had exceeded that. I also wasn't allowed to work. There were limits on what I could do there. But I knew that. It was very clear what I was going for and what I could do. I'm wondering if the issue here is that people came with certain expectations, and then while they were here, all the rules changed.
That's absolutely right, Leisha. These people, like Arvind and Bhupendra, were promised a path to permanent residency. Just like I was, the Canadian government advertised these pathways and said, hey, come to Canada, study, work, and live here permanently. There was a clear path laid out. Except Ravinder and I managed to get our papers in before Canada changed its policies and said, actually, no, you can't live here anymore, and we can't take more immigration. We're scaling back. That's what Chris Veman and the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses also echoed, that there were these unintended consequences in immigration policy changes. And I've heard experts say that we have to now be sending a clear message to people before they come. You can come here as a temporary foreign worker or as an international student, but That's no guarantee that you will be able to stay here permanently, and then people can plan accordingly.
Right. And in order to shrink the numbers, the requirements have changed. Like there are specific requirements that these things you have to meet. So just give us some examples of what that looks like now.
Right, Leisha. That means that rules are tighter at every level. Federal, provincial, each pathway is restricted. For example, all international students used to automatically get a postgraduate work permit after a postgraduate course, allowing them to work for a certain period of time once they graduate. But now the government is picking and choosing certain courses to decide who gets that postgrad permit. Or for foreign workers, the feds have now put a cap on how many foreign workers certain industries like food or transportation can hire. Or like the federal pathway for Canadian skilled workers, that's the path that I used for my permanent residency because I'd worked at a Canadian company for 3 years. That's a points-based system, and you get rewarded based on things like Canadian education, Canadian work experience, language skills. And I got in super easy at the time. I had about 400 points. And this is just a few years ago, 3 years ago. And now people need more than 500 points, which might not sound like a huge difference, but it's a life-changing number for many.
Yeah, I can see that. So I'm guessing the impact on the chefs at the Indian restaurant are an example of some of these unintended consequences. Like I just want to go back there for a minute because I'm wondering what options they have at this point. Like, is there any hope for the restaurant owner or the chefs?
Hope is definitely dwindling for the chefs, Leisha. They're still waiting for their work permit extension applications to go through and to be able to get their permanent residency papers in. The owner's been calling MPs, Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, anyone she can. She showed me stacks of paperwork, rejection letters, documents that she's been submitting to prove the need for skilled workers. She's posted ads, got applicants, but says none of them are qualified to make authentic Indian cuisine. And she says she's not asking for special treatment. She's just asking the government to let her hire the workers that she needs to keep her business running. She said she's already had to reduce hours and is worried that she won't be able to cover the lease and the supplier costs, everything that's associated with running a restaurant, if those chefs leave.
I have to fight, I'll say. Not for myself. I have a selfish reason, but at the same time, they rely on me. They call me sister. Their kids call me, somebody calls me Bua, somebody calls me Masi, means aunt. And I think they leave their families and we here become a family. And it's our responsibility to make sure that, I keep fighting for them till I can, and I should not give up. Because if I give up, then, I think they will blame me for their whole life, and I don't want that,
She says the only reason her restaurant has succeeded is because of them, and that doesn't make them easy to replace.
Oh, Aishwarya, thank you so much for bringing us their story.
Thank you, Leisha.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And also make sure you're following This is Saskatchewan on your favorite podcast app. I'm Leisha Grabinski. Talk again soon.